Hi, I'm Steve from Stevo Straps, and this is a quick tutorial if anybody wants to have a go at making their own leather NATO straps. I'll go through the leather part with you in a minute. I'll just show you roughly how I make my own loops. You can use loops from an old NATO is probably the best way to go if you're just starting out, but I'll quickly show you a little gadget I've made here just to make my own loops. So I've got some steel bar there which I've cut to length. Obviously that varies from size to size, and I've got this little gadget here. This is a one-handed review obviously because I'm trying to film it at the same time, so that goes between that. I'll just put it on the stand so you can get a rough idea. Hope you can see from there. Move it out of the way, and that goes, and they just curl round. And that is pretty much about, I just squeeze it up a little bit to close it up, and there we have the loop. Okay, right, I'll just tidy my bench away now and get the leather out. I'll put these bits over on my bench. Won't be a sec, won't be a sec. Right, here's the leather that we'll be using. So I just need to move some of these bits out of the way. I should have thought this out a bit better really, but it's just a quick idea that I thought I'd come up with to make the NATO strap. So if you just bear with me. Right, I'm back with you now. So this is a piece, it's a bit of a burgundy colour, I suppose you'd call it, a brown burgundy. It's British English bridle leather. It's about 1.2 mil thick, something like that, maybe a tad wide, thicker. Right, so here goes. I'm just going to slice this down now. So this will be for a 20 mil NATO strap. So I'll just mark it off. I don't know whether you can see from there, okay. You have to be quite accurate with this to get a nice fit. So it's a 20 mil strap, so I'll probably do just slightly over 20 mil because leather does have a tendency to shrink slightly. So most of my stuff and my straps I always make slightly wider to allow for the shrinkage. So for a standard NATO, for a wrist at probably 6.5 to 7.5 inch wrist, the standard NATO would be around about 280 mil. But obviously it has a return on the NATO, so we have to make this longer. So this piece I've cut here is 48 mil long. Sorry, so that's 48 centimeters long. So there we go. I'll now put this onto my workbench so you can get to see. Sorry about all this moving around, but it's quite difficult doing this on an iPhone. So here we go. Have I got that set up right? So I just trim the end of the strap. This is the rough end, you know, at the end of the hide. So I'll just square that off. This does take a little while, so you might watch this in 2 or 3 goes. We'll see what you think. Oh, I've just cut that out of the camera view. Sorry about that. So what I've done, I've just cut the end off that to square it off, and now I'm going to skive the end of this leather. So you want a new craft knife, a new blade. The leather does blunt the blade quite a bit, quite quickly, but there we go. So I've skived that edge down there, as you can see. Now with one of the loops. So like I say, I make my loops, but if you've got an old NATO strap, just cut it up and use those bits. There's nothing wrong with them. They don't really wear out. So I put that on. It's probably about 1/2 inch return over the loop there. Put a little mark on it, and a mark where the loop would be, so it's still movable when you've glued it. Right, the glue. It's just a it's contact adhesive. So pop your glue on there. Any sort of leather, rubber, contact adhesive will do. There we go. And as it says contact adhesive, you just let the glue go off a little bit so it's tacky. So as soon as you fold it over and it touches, that's stuck. That won't go anywhere then. Right. Obviously, you just take a few minutes to go off. I'll try and do this as quick as I can for you, but I think we're probably it'll be about 1/2 an hour of me mumbling on. Right. That isn't long enough yet, but just for the sake of filming this, I'll go ahead with it. Oh, it sounds it's taken quite well. I use a bit of bone just to push the leather down, so it's a nice fit. So you can see there, you can see what we've got now. Can you see that okay? So that's a nice fit there. And space I'm going to put some holes in there so we can stitch this. So space the holes out equally. I just use a little divider thing here. So roughly you get the same distance apart all the way along. There you go. I just put a little bit of leather underneath that to push the holes through. It just makes it easier to stitch this. I'm going to stitch this in a black polyester thread, which is super strong, and I'm going to double the thread as well. Just makes it look a bit nicer when it's thicker. As you can see, it's quite easy to stitch when you make the holes first. There we go. So if you've got a NATO that fits you well, I just knocked my phone there. You can just take the measurements from that. You take it apart to take the loops out, and just copy the same measurements. And to finish this off, I just double stitch on these end loops the centre. There we go. So that's quite a nice heavy thread on there. And just cut off the excess, probably about 1.5 mm away from the edge. There we go. Cigarette lighter just to seal it, and push that down. And there we go. That's the first part of the NATO strap. Now obviously we have the return. I'll just cut this edge, you can see it there, just makes it easier to feed through for now. There we go, and cut the edge so it folds through. I'll copy this strap that I made earlier. Like I say, you can copy your old NATO. So there we go. That's about the same distance apart on the return. Now we need to find the centre of this strap, and I've just got the dividers here to find the centre. Obviously the hole you put in this determined on your hardware that you're using. So there we go. So now I'll get my hole punch. It's just a rotated hole punch. And there we go. There's the hole in there. Can you see that okay? Yep. They do it a little distance away from the edge so that the tang of the buckle has got plenty of movement on there. There we go. I've just taken the piece out of there. So now, so what we do is pull the thread back. Just got to find my little buckle. Here we go. There we go. There. So we just feed it through. Put the buckle through there. You can see where I've made the hole quite wide there now, so it allows the buckle to sit in there nicely like that. Right, now I'll mark out where I'm going to glue. So if I just copy this one that I've got there. There's the glue. There we go. I'm trying to be as quick as I can with this, so it you don't get too bored watching it, but it gives you a rough idea on how to make your own, which is quite nice to do. You might have a bit of leather knocking around the house or something, an old belt. If you can thin it down, it would work for this as well. Probably about 1.2 to 1.5 mil thick is probably the ideal for the NATO strap. You don't want anything that's too soft. It's got to have a bit of substance to it. You can get away with a little bit of stretch on the leather, but you don't want too much. So there we go. So I've glued that, so I should wait a few minutes now for this to go off, just so it's go tacky. And I'll just get my loops ready there. It should take a bit longer for this to go off. I'll give it a bit of a blow in a minute. Right. So you can see where I am with this. So you can see where the buckle was going through there, and there's the hardware, the loops. And just pull those up there and pull it quite tight if you can, and pop that down. I used a bit of bone that I've got. It's just, and that gives you a starting point there for your first loop. Any bit, a piece of plastic would probably do, or the end of a knife, just a stainless steel bit of a knife, not the sharp end obviously. And there we go. So, and that allows me then to put my holes in there. Again, space these out nicely. Just move it in a little bit. I'll just do the other side of the loop. I should have got myself a cup of tea ready, I suppose, while I was making this. Right, now I'll push the holes when I can find my tools. I've got tools all over the place around here. There we go, so that's ready for the thread now. Like I say, this is a polyester thread, but you can pretty much use any thread. I use this because it's super strong, and I double it over to make it thick. It just looks good, and this will last forever. Pull it tight as you pull it through. You can pull it, really put a bit of pressure on this so it's nice and tight. So I've stitched all down one side, so I'm just coming up the other side of it now. You have to be careful the thread doesn't knot underneath when you're pulling it through. So you just like that. So you just have to pull it back, put your finger on it. There we go. Right, so I've gone up one side, now I just want to go down the other side. So back through the first hole, up on inside the loop there. Then I'm going to put that through the centre and up through the first hole again on the other side. Pull that tight so you can't see where the thread is there. And again, go down. They tend to lift over there. Down this side, pulling tight as you go. The tails sometimes just get caught underneath, you just have to pull those back out over the top and then back down. I hope you can see this okay, the way it's going. So now I'm going to go back down the other side. You can make natos out of most materials that don't stretch, as long as the thickness is about right. So 1.2 to 1.5 mil. Yeah, I make an awful lot of canvas. I make that out of 2 layers of canvas, which is bonded together with a polymer. But obviously with the leather, probably single layer is the way to go. So there I've gone all the way back down, and I've popped the thread up through the centre there and out the other side, and I just nip those off with these little nippers, probably about 1.5 mil away from the edge. And cigarette lighter just to seal the edge of the thread. There we go, and that one there. So that's the first loop in. So we've got the buckle in, the first loop in, and now the second loop. I just measure it against this one I've got now. It just makes it a bit quicker for you. So if you're watching this, so again, distance can be determined. If you've got an old strap that was good, do it the same. So I've used the bone again just to put my lines in there, mark the holes out. There we go, and on the other side. This is a 20 mil wide strap as you heard, but even if it's a 22 mil, I'd probably still only put 4 holes in here, 4 stitches. I think that's more than enough. Right, is that thread going to be long enough? I think it will. Right, here we go again. So I'm going to start off at the first hole underneath. There we go. Just hoping this thread's going to be long enough. There we go. Then back over and into that same hole, pulling that quite tight but keep hold of the thread underneath. So I'm going to go all the way up this side now. There we go. Back over the top, then back down the other side, pulling it nice and tight. Careful it doesn't knot underneath. And on the last thread on this, I'm going to go into the first hole, up by the side of the hardware there, pull that through into the middle, then up through the first hole. This way you only have one start and one finish on both sides. There we go. Move that bit of thread there. You can really pull this quite hard now. It's locking quite nicely. So I expect my sales and NATOs will go down drastically when I put this online. It's probably not the best business sense really, is it? Anyway. And the last one goes back up through there, just by the side of the hardware. Pull it tight, and then go all the way through to the other side. There we go. Pull it tight again. Then we can just cut these bits off. Like I say, about 1.5 mil away from the end. And just seal it with a cigarette lighter. There we go, so that's the sewing done. Don't know whether you can see that on there. There we go. Right, now the length. Standard length for one of these NATOs for a 6.5 inch to 7.5 inch wrist, or just over 7 inch wrist, is around about 280. This one's going to be for, I don't know what to do with this one yet. I'll do this one at 280. See that? Yeah. I just mark that with a bone on the length I want to cut it. Now a coin, any coin will do. Well, it looks, so it's a similar profile. This is a 1p piece, which is about ideal for that, for the 20mm. And I used to cut round like that, but it was getting a bit dodgy. I was starting to slice my side of my fingers off. So what I do now, I just do a chopping motion. So straight the way across like that, then just keep the coin, don't move the coin, and just chop down all the way around. It's a bit safer to do it like this. Again, always use a new blade. Always use a new blade. Right, so there we go, you can see that there. And what I do with these on the leading edge is just nip the leather away a little bit. It helps it feed through smoother. There we go. So now I'll put the holes in. Again, you want some sort of divider so you can find the centre of the strap. There we go, there's a centre line. And I usually mark these holes around about 7mm apart. So if you do them too close together, after a while you'll find out the holes will they just be, joined together. It's not very good. So about 7mm depending on the quality of the leather, you know, if it's a hardish leather, you'd get away with a little bit less, but 7mm I think is about right. So anywhere from the end, because as you know, NATOs are to be worn over flying suits, so there's plenty of adjustment on these. So I'll probably look about 1.5 inches away from the end of the strap, and there we go. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I'll do 11 holes on that. I'll just check to make sure they're central. Yep, that's it. And here we go with a hole punch again. Job to see, not very good light in here. You could get away with just 3 holes, you know, if you wanted. You know, if you know your wrist measurement, you could place the strap on and just do 1 hole if you wanted to. But this covers all bases, whether you want it over a flying suit or just to do it as a return. Right, there we go. 1 NATO. I usually put a little stamp on the underside to say it's mine, that I've made it. And I'll just show you quickly. Go through like that. The loops are a bit tight at the moment because they're new, and then you just do a return. I fold mine, actually I'll go for a bit more forward with this. I know I'm fiddling around here, so I prefer just to pull through strap myself rather than a NATO. But so go through, and then rather than fold it back, I usually try and fold mine in like that, so it folds, so it's all the same colour. And there we go. Hope you enjoyed that. Thanks very much for watching. Thanks very much. Okay, bye.